Hey guys, welcome to today's session of Google Author Talks. My name is Ben Chu. I'm here to introduce a dear friend of mine whom I've known for the last 15 years. It's been really wonderful seeing his life's journey unfold over the last decade. He'll be talking about something that's pretty close and dear to my heart as a guy with a kid, another kid on the way, and my wife, and just balancing the demands of family versus my spiritual passions and hobbies and work, of course. Has always been a struggle, and I feel like that's fairly common here at Google. So Gary's actually given this talk to many large companies before. He has a lot of experience doing it. So I'm really excited to hear it for the first time. I'm sure it'll be very practical, a lot of good wisdom here. So let's everyone give him a warm Google welcome. Gary Kunath.
Thank you. It's really my pleasure to be here. It's my first time on the Google campus, so it was really quite a treat to see everybody playing volleyball. And when I started at AT&T, you didn't play volleyball at AT&T. You just came to work and that was it, boom, done. The reason I'm here, listen, I'm not a psychiatrist and I'm not a psychologist and I'm not going to talk about rainbows, unicorns, and lollipops. What I am is a business guy. And I started from the ground up and I was hungry. I thought net worth was the secret to life worth. And I worked really hard for it. But I made some very critical mistakes along the way. And those mistakes cost me in my personal life. And the reason I'm here, it's my passion now to share that story with others, because my goal is to have everybody have the greatest life they can have. I mean, I want to maximize joy and contentment in everybody's life, and I want to share with you how I figured it out. And I was just so thankful I figured it out before it was too late, because some people don't. So, last month, I was riding a plane from Montreal, and I just happened to sit near this guy. And I never really talk to people, not that I'm unsociable. I like to read. But the guy started to talk to me, and what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? That kind of stuff. That's probably why I don't talk to people, because it's boring. But, so we finally got to the point where I said, well, where are you headed? And he goes, oh, man. He goes, I'm going to China. 3 weeks, man, I'm going to China. He goes, it's awesome over there. He goes, and from there I'm just going to scoot over to Singapore for another 3 weeks. He goes, this job, I've seen the world. It's the best job ever. He goes, I'm going to come home for maybe about a week, maybe 3 days, I haven't decided yet, and then I'm going to go to South America for a month. Now, it was funny because as I'm listening to this guy, if I was in my early 20s, I know exactly what I would have been thinking. I would have said, I want to be you. You are so cool. You're going everywhere. I mean, it's what I dreamed of. I want that job. But I'm not in my 20s. And I knew better. And I knew that what he was giving me was what I would call psychological camouflage for what was really going on in his life, which is not an uncommon thing, by the way. And I asked him one question. I just looked at him and I said, so tell me, with all this travel, how has that affected your relationship at home with your wife and your kids? And there was dead silence. I'm not kidding you. The color drained out of this guy's face. He just went, whew. He goes, I come home, decisions are made in the house, I have no say. He goes, I go to discipline the kids, they look at me like I'm a stranger. But what was amazing to me is as I saw the pain in this guy's face, and here he is trying to camouflage this as though he's got this great life. But when he comes home, there's nothing going on. And I felt bad for the guy, and I also understood the guy, because for a short period in my life, that was me. And I knew what that was like. I know how that feels. And sometimes you convince yourself you're doing this for the good of your family. You're sacrificing so your kids and your family don't have to. You're sacrificing so they can have a better life. And in part, that's true. But the reality is, they just want you. So I want to talk about, not so much about making a living. I've done the corporate thing. I did the entrepreneurial thing. I made my bones. I'm fine. But I'm going to talk about making a life. It doesn't take that much effort to make a living. People do it all over the world. But making a life is not that easy. And that's what I want to spend some time talking with you about. It used to be that people thought, including myself, that professional well-being drives personal well-being, okay? And I believe this too. I attended a retirement party of a CEO of a Fortune 100 company. You would know it, I won't mention it. And I listened to the CEO's retirement speech, and I will never forget it. He got up there, and it was a room full of maybe 300-400 people. And he sat there and he goes, I know many of you in this room want to know what it takes to do my job. He goes, and I'm going to tell you right now what it takes to have my job. And it was funny because I watched the crowd. You could see all the young stallions going, all right, baby, here we go. Launch pad to the top. So they're just waiting for this. And he goes, 4 weeks ago, I walked my oldest daughter down the aisle to give her hand in marriage. He said, and as I was walking her down the aisle, I realized I couldn't tell you what her favorite color is. Because I realized I couldn't even tell you her favorite book that she ever read, or any book that she ever read. Because I couldn't even tell you the last name of her best friend. He goes, that's what it takes to do my job. And if you want it, you can have it. And what struck me about that was this. Here's a guy who was, no question, was a captain of industry, no question. And yet, he wasn't even a deckhand in his own life. And it was a combination of frustration and anger, but mostly at himself. Because he let it get away from him. He knew there were memories that he was never, ever going to get to make. There was events in his life that he was not there for, and he can't get them back. Yeah, he's got cash. He's got big houses, nice cars, private schools, but he's got nothing. And I always believed, to me it didn't make sense to have to love either your work life or love your home life. I wanted to love my whole life. So I figured out, for me, what the top ways are to drive happiness and to be happy, because I believe that this equation is really the other way around. I believe it's personal well-being that drives professional well-being. I lived that myself. When I started to focus, when I was focusing on the professional well-being, yeah, I was kicking it. Money was coming in, everything you would ever want, I had. The problem was, when I got home, what you want there, I didn't have. It cost me. So I said, I got to fix this. So I focused on personal well-being, and what I learned was this. The happier you are in your life, the better you are in every other aspect of your life, and that includes work. I was a smarter entrepreneur. I worked better. I was happier. I had more fun. I was more successful. All of that stuff because I focused on personal well-being. I put that first. So let's talk more about that. You're very lucky to be here at Google. You are. Because Google, I can see just by the short time I've been on the campus, values its people. Now, let's be honest. They get their pound of flesh too. Okay? You know, it's not a secret why they want you to stay 12 hours a day and have dinner and everything else. I mean, because you go and bang out some more work. I get it, but it's all right. It's okay, that's fine. I'm all for that, as long as you're happy, right? But to me, it's what happens when you leave here. Now you look at this. I'll walk through this with you. But this is the landscape outside of Google. Some companies believe we can ignore the deep realities of human existence. We can pretend that emotions are not part of our work lives. We can pretend we don't have families or health crisis or deep worries. In essence, companies want to take the complexity of human life and organize it away. It's not part of the story we want to believe. People can be viewed as machines and controlled to perform with the same efficiency and predictability. And in our machine organizations, we try to extinguish individuality in order to reach our goal of certainty. We trade uniqueness for control and barter our humanness for petty performance measures. It's interesting. You look at some of these experiential companies that rely on the customer experience, for instance, airlines, okay? What was it? Ritz-Carlton, Singapore Airlines, and there's another chain that they invested $6 million to teach people how to be themselves. I mean, you wonder, where did the wheels come off the cart there? At what point did they say, no, don't be you because nobody likes you. So be something else. Where do they gum up the gears? It's because some of these companies try to force fit these people into these molds. But they hire these wonderfully gifted and talented people, and then they force them into this mold. Say, listen, when the customer says this, you say that. When they say this, you say this. You say that, then say that. And that's how it goes. And you get rid of this individual freedom that makes people great. So bringing humanity back to the business is a huge issue for many companies out there. Now, you look at the landscape of the people. Interesting enough, American Psychology Associate, 48% of employees say their employers don't value a good work-life balance. Some I know don't. I've been there, I've seen it. Some pretend. They put nice posters in a lunchroom and it looks good for the profit sharing plan and the annual report. You have to get in underneath to see what's really going on. But this is a really huge issue. So here's what people are valuing: well-being of their families and themselves outside of work, and yet many of them don't believe that companies feel the same. The Aspen Institute, 61% of the people surveyed there said they're not living the American dream. 75% think it's broken. 70% of the people, and this is out of the Families and Work-Life Institute, said they would trade promotions and pay increases for family well-being. Over 70% of Americans over the age of 30 get no regular exercise, and only 14% take vacations of 2 weeks or longer. Now you think, oh, that's crazy. No, it isn't crazy. That's what's going on. I find people put more time into planning their vacation than they do planning their life. It boggles my mind. Why is that? In Europe, you would never see a 14-day vacation. If you said 14 days, you would have a revolution. Okay? So, here are what I see as some tremendous life limiters. These are things that bring us back and bring us down. Regret over the past, worrying about what happened that you can't change anymore. Regret over the past, oh, I should have done, oh, if I'd only done that. You gotta let that go. Resentment and envy in the present. Resentment and envy are the two emotions that it's been medically proven will literally dissolve or eradicate your immune system. They are physically unhealthy emotions for you. And fear of the future. Fear of the future is a big one. That's why we don't do things. That's why we don't roll the dice. That's why we don't take chances. You know, it's interesting. As we've evolved over the last 1.5 million years, our brains have developed a capacity to simulate outcomes. Okay? We can simulate outcomes. Our ancestors could not simulate outcomes. They would have to look at a fire and go, yeah, that's pretty hot. My foot's burning. We could go, yeah, no, it makes sense. We better stay away from that. We can simulate, but the problem is, even though that's a beautiful gift to have, the problem is when we simulate outcomes in our mind, we usually make them more negative than they are. So we don't do things. We think they're going to be worse than they really are. I don't know if you've ever done things and you say, well, I never thought I could run a 5K, and then you do it and you go, oh, can't believe I did that, right? So that's just one of the things that we do. So fear of the future is a huge, huge issue. And it is a major life limiter. Now, the science of happiness. Let me talk about this. Because, when I used to think about, because I used to do talks business talks, value creation. One of the businesses I own was sales training, high-end sales training company. We used to do all the sales training for the top companies all over the world. And I used to think about, okay, well, how did I now focus on life worth? How did I turn this corner? And people would ask me that. And I would tell them, this is what I experienced, and this is what I know leads to a great life. But then they'd say, well, what's the science behind it? And it really kind of stumped me. So I went and I did some research on the science behind it. And here's what I know about happiness, okay? We have the capability. The other thing that our minds have evolved into is allowing us to have the capability to synthesize happiness in our minds. And this comes out of Harvard. University. There's two forms of happiness. There's natural happiness. You're happy when you get what you want. Okay? Fair statement. But then there's synthetic or synthesized happiness where you're happy when you don't get what you want. And that's a big deal. I mean, it gives us the ability, and I'll show you, it allows us, this one thing allows us the ability to take situations that aren't very pleasant or are negative and turn them in our minds into a situation that are okay. I'll give you an example. Another study, I think it was out of Villanova, where they looked at an individual who won a $200 million lottery and an individual who became a paraplegic. And they said, which do you think had the happier outcome? Well, it's pretty obvious. You might say, well, of course, the lottery winner. But the truth be told, at the end of 12 months, they went and measured the happiness of each one. There was absolutely no statistical difference in the happiness between the paraplegic or the lottery winner. None. Because that's the skill we have. It's almost like a psychological immune system we have in our head where we can take situations and we can make the best of them regardless. I was at the X Games for the paraplegics. This guy was doing the downhill slalom. And I asked him, I was fascinated. This guy was unbelievable. And he was going downhill in the giant slalom, skiing. And I got to talk to him, and he turned to me and he said, my life is better than your best vacation. And you know what? And he meant it. And you could look at this guy and say, how could that be? But in his mind, there was not even a question. And I said, well, why can't everybody feel like that? And the answer is, we can. We all have this capability in our head. The key is, some activate it better than others. Some activate it better than others. Sometimes it takes a significant emotional event in our life to really ground us and say, what am I thinking about? I'm worried about all these things, and these things aren't important at all. So when you look at the science of happiness, you look at it like this. 50% of your happiness is a set point. It's like when you're born. You have green eyes, you have brown eyes, you have blue eyes, done. I mean, that's it, boom. 10% of your happiness is circumstantial, but 40% of your happiness is derived from intentional activity. In other words, there are literally things you can do to be happier. And why you wouldn't want to be happier is beyond me. But there are things you can do. People want to be happier, but sometimes they don't know how. So here is what I know to be true. These are my 10 points of life. These are the things I know and research supports will absolutely maximize joy and contentment in your life. Now, I'm going to go into the ones that are highlighted in red more deeply, but I'll cover them and I'll just touch on these for time issues. But money doesn't make you rich. Expressing gratitude matters. Good goes around. Practicing the art of savoring. The power of perspective. That literally saved my life, I have to tell you. The belief in something bigger than you. Life is fun, and fun is good. Relationship refinement, thinning the herd. We'll talk about that. And being your authentic self, and then preparing a last lecture for your family. Now, let me just touch on the ones that aren't highlighted. Gratitude matters. Gratitude is one of the single most important things that contribute to one's happiness. Going and being grateful for what you have. I don't know this, but sometimes we can take for granted things that we have that we should never take for granted. But because we have them, we just overlook them because they're part of our lives. I'm a big believer in thank you notes. A huge believer in thank you notes. And I mean handwritten, not the electronic ones. I know that's, to me, that's like a drive-through window kind of thing. I like the handwritten notes. I make a point to write handwritten notes, thanking people for just doing something that mattered to me. And you know what? It takes me 5 minutes or less, and the cost of a stamp, and they keep it forever. I literally have boxes of thank you cards that I have received, And I look at them when I feel crappy. I read them. That's how, it's such a little thing to do, but it's such a huge thing to do. And I make that a point. All my kids have thank you cards. Everybody has thank you cards. That's what we do. Now, believing in something bigger than you. I'm not trying to make a spiritual comment here, but people want to be part of something bigger than themselves. My suspicion is that's probably a big part of why people join Google. You're part of something bigger than you, something that really is changing things. That's a big thing. But on the other hand, on the life side, I hate to say this, but bad things happen to good people. Adversity plays no favorites, and adversity finds us all. You will not miss it. It will come to you if it has not already. And these things can be big. Death, loss of a loved one, financial ruin, addictions, victim of a crime, disabling accident. These things are huge. And I believe they're so much bigger than us. So it's important for me, I think, to believe in something bigger than you, because these things will crush you if you try to stand alone. And the truth be told, we need adversity in our lives. We need it. Because it's the only way you can find out who you really are. Look, anyone can be a rock star when life is perfect. But when life isn't so perfect, then the real you shows up. That's how you find out who you are. You can either be a camper, a climber, or a quitter when it comes to adversity, if you were to use a mountain climbing analogy. Some people just quit in the face of adversity. Some people camp, hole up, cover themselves up, hoping everything blows away, and some people climb. But we need adversity in our lives. I can tell you, when my father passed away, and my father and I were very close, and he had brain cancer. And I was in the hospital room with him. And I was CEO of my own company. I graduated from the best business schools. I had lectured at the best business schools. I had money. I had contacts. I had juice. But let me tell you something. I was so far out of my league on this one. I can't even describe the feeling of complete and abject helplessness I had watching my father die, and I could do nothing about it. Nothing. And if I didn't believe that there was something bigger at play in that room, I don't know how I would have gotten through that. It still is a tough thing, but I'm a big believer that believing in something bigger than you will put you in a position to come out okay on life's adversities that you will get handed. Being your authentic self. When I first left AT&T and I started my own business. It's pretty scary, right? I was a single income, I had a wife and I had 3 small kids. If I failed, we didn't eat. Fear is a great motivator. If I failed, we didn't have a house to live in. Failure was not an option for me. So when I went into this consulting business, I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I was stupid, I don't know. I actually, my first desk was a Play-Doh play school. My son's 6-year-old son's Play-Doh play school desk in my basement. And I had the little laptop on it. I looked like Schroeder from Peanuts. And when customers would call me, I didn't want them to think I'm working out of my basement on a Play-Doh desk. Who wants to put their sales strategy in the hands of a guy that's got his desk near the canned pickles down in the basement? So I remember I would answer the phone, and I'm thinking, I don't know what consultants, but consultants, they have high office buildings with ceiling-to-floor windows, and they're over the park, and so I've got to act that way. So when someone would call, and I would pick up the phone and my dog would bark, I would go nuts. I'd go, ah. And they go, was that a dog? And of course, I'm thinking, well, I don't want to tell them I have a dog. Consultants don't have dogs. They don't like mammals. They're not human. So I go, yeah, it's a dog. I'm at the Animal Research Center at Pfizer. I mean, I made stuff up just because I didn't want them to think I'm in my basement. And what was interesting to me was after my business became really successful, I decided to just be me. As frightening as that is, I decided to just be me. Because I didn't care. I didn't need business. I was good. So when they would call and the dog would bark, they go, hey, is that a dog? I go, yeah, it's a dog. I have two. They're miniature long-haired dachshunds. They're idiots. And, well, I have a dachshund too. And that dog's an idiot. So what I found was being myself, not only did it eliminate the stress of wearing someone else's face, it was so liberating for me. And in life, it's all about how you show up anyway. So that was a lesson that I had learned. People like authenticity. People like that. Customers like it. Everybody likes authentic. And then the last thing is preparing a last lecture for your family. This comes from a concept called ethical wills, and was around a long time before Dr. Randy Pausch of Carnegie Mellon made it popular. You may have seen that video. But, and he called it the last lecture. I think it's a good thing to do. I did that for my son when he graduated from college. I wrote, because you have wills to divide up your stuff. But as a parent, I don't want my kids guessing who I really was. What I believed, what I valued, what mattered to me, what I think is important in life. Because you can't always flip the cards on the table. You got to be a dad sometimes. So I wrote an ethical will about what I valued, and I gave him that as a graduation gift. And actually, believe it or not, it's printed as I gave it to him in the book, and he still has it to this day. So these are some of the 10 points of life I believe are important, but now I'll go into the ones that are more highlighted. Money doesn't make you rich. Life worth versus net worth. Here's what I would tell you about that. And let me be clear about what I'm not saying. What I'm not saying is don't work hard. I'm not saying that. I worked hard, and I still work hard when I want to work. But what I'm saying is don't focus on net worth at the expense of life worth. And many people do that. Many people do that. I know people with tremendously high net worths that I would consider miserable failures as human beings. And yet I know people that barely make ends meet, are barely paying their bills, and they're some of the most happy and successful people I know. What I found when I lectured and talked to a lot of executives is net worth can be a very intoxicating spin cycle, especially when you start seeing the money roll in, the bonuses. Maybe I'll stay one more year. Maybe I'll do, and it can get you. Now, if you're in the early phases of your career and you're just starting out and you got enough money to get things, then yes, of course you focus on that. But there will be a time in your life when you will have to choose which governs which. And I'm telling you, the only reason you care about net worth at all is to underwrite life worth. But sometimes we forget. I had a friend of mine who was talking to this other guy he was a millionaire, and he was chirping a little bit. He was going, yeah, I have this, I have that, I have this. And my friend, who wasn't a millionaire, was a regular guy, he goes, yeah, well, let me tell you something. I have something you'll never have. He goes, what's that? He goes, I have enough. And the guy just stopped in his tracks, and you know what? It was a perfect answer. But that's the hardest thing for people to figure out. When do you know we had enough? See, when I learned what really mattered in life and focused on that, and that happiness helped me even more professionally, it was when I had nothing. I mean, I had nothing when I started out. Then I had something. Then I lost my family because I was a workaholic, unlike now where I'm a workaholic, okay? And then I had nothing again. But you know what? But that was the most important lesson I learned. And you're not going to hear many CEOs come in and tell you they lost their families. They got divorced. They're not going to tell you this. They're going to tell you everything's great. but everything isn't great. I've seen them. I learned the most important thing, and that was when I had nothing, I learned how to be happy without anything. And that was the most important. I learned what I did not need to be happy. I was perfectly happy that I didn't have a cool car. I could get around, but that forced me to understand what really mattered. Life worth versus net worth, very, very important piece. And when you come to terms with what matters most to you and put the priority in the right spot, it's a big thing. Now, this is the only trick I know. I'm an old guy. This is the only trick I know. So bear with me. No, you don't have vertigo. It is just my technological savvy shining through. But here's what I want to tell you. This is true. People start to live the most after they have faced death. And I want to play for you a short video so you can
So imagine a big explosion as you climb through 3,000 feet. Imagine a plane full of smoke. Imagine an engine going clack, 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 clack. Sounds scary. Well, I had a unique seat that day. I was sitting in 1D. I was the only one who could talk to the flight attendants. So I looked at them right away, and they said, no problem. We probably hit some birds. The pilot had already turned the plane around, and we weren't that far. You could see Manhattan. 2 minutes later, 3 things happen at the same time. The pilot lines up the plane with the Hudson River. It's usually not the route. He turns off the engines. Now imagine being on a plane with no sound. And then he says 3 words, as unemotional 3 words as I've ever heard. He says, brace for impact. I didn't have to talk to the flight attendant anymore. I could see in her eyes, it was terror. Life was over. And I want to share with you 3 things I learned about myself that day. I learned that it all changes in an instant. We have this bucket list, we have these things we want to do in life, and I thought about all the people I wanted to reach out that I didn't, all the fences I wanted to mend, all the experiences I wanted to have and I never did. As I thought about that, later on I came up with a saying, which is, I collect bad wines. Because if the wine is ready and the person is there, I'm opening it. I no longer want to postpone anything in life. And that urgency, that purpose has really changed my life. The second thing I learned that day, and this is as we clear the George Washington Bridge, which was by not a lot, I thought about, wow, I really feel one real regret. I've lived a good life. In my own humanity and mistakes, I've tried to get better at everything I've tried. But in my humanity, I also allow my ego to get in. And I regretted the time I wasted in things that did not matter with people that matter. And I thought about my relationship with my wife, with my friends, with people. And after, as I reflected on that, I decided to eliminate negative energy from my life. It's not perfect. It's a lot better. I've not had a fight with my wife in 2 years. It feels great. I'm no longer trying to be right. I choose to be happy. The third thing I learned, and this is as your mental clock starts going 15, 14, 13, you can see the water coming. I'm saying, please blow up. Right? I don't want this thing to break in 20 pieces like you've seen in those documentaries. And as we're coming down, I had a sense of, wow, dying is not scary. It's almost like we've been preparing for it our whole lives. But it was very sad. I didn't want to go. I love my life. And that sadness really framed in one thought, which is, I only wish for one thing. I only wish I could see my kids grow up. About a month later, I was in a performance by my daughter, first grader, not much artistic talent, yet. And I'm bawling, I'm crying like a little kid. And it made all the sense in the world to me. I realized at that point, by connecting those two dots, that the only thing that matters in my life is being a great dad. Above all, the only goal I have in life is to be a good dad. I was given the gift of a miracle, of not dying that day. I was given another gift, which was to be able to see into the future and come back and live differently. I challenge you guys that are flying today. Imagine the same thing happens on your plane, and please don't. But imagine, and how would you change? What would you get done that you're waiting to get done because you think you'll be here forever? How would you change your relationships and the negative energy in them? And more than anything, are you being the best parent you can? Thank you.
Put things in perspective. In fact, it was interesting. Steve Jobs said, remembering that you will eventually die is the most important tool you will ever have to make those big decisions in life. All fear of failure, pride, and enormity of risk fall away in the face of death. The things I used to think were such big deals, they weren't big deals. When I walk through a children's cancer ward, I'm ashamed of what I thought was a big deal or what bothered me. And my son, who's your age, works in the medical field. He's in surgeries. He was in a surgery, and it was a simple bowel resection. I don't know how simple they are, but... And earlier in the week, he had called me in sales. He goes, Dad, I'm really trying to figure out how to make my sales quota, how to make my sales numbers. You know, I used to run a sales training company, so that was an obvious area that I knew about, which I also thought was funny because when he lived at home, he wasn't worried about making anything, including his bed. So I thought this was really a very unique conversation for him. Now he's worried about making something. And he was really upset by it. And having hindsight, and I'm not saying it was unimportant, but to lose sleep over it. It's not that important. Of course, I can't tell him. Some things you just have to experience before you get it. I could tell you, but it won't register until you live it. And so I talked about that. We agreed we'd talk at the end of the week. The end of the week came, and I sensed there was a difference in his voice. And I said, tell me about what happened today. What was your day like? He said, we came out of surgery today, Dad. He goes, there was a guy in there. He's 32 years old. He was in for a simple operation. It should have been boom, in and out. They opened him up. He was covered with cancer. He said, Dad, his wife is in the waiting room. She had 2 little kids. She doesn't know that her husband has a month, maybe less, and he doesn't know either. He goes, Dad, I have 2 little kids. That guy's my age. And I said, well, what did you learn from that? He goes, maybe my sales objectives aren't that big a deal. And again, I'm not saying work is unimportant, but I'm saying the power of perspective will save you. It saved me. The things I thought had to be done, they didn't have to be done. They could have waited a day. I didn't have to miss a birthday party to do those things. Are you kidding me? Never again. Never again. Just to give you some perspective, this is an interesting calculation. Because I know you're young, think you're bulletproof, think you're going to live forever, think you got an inordinate amount of Saturdays left. Check this out. Multiply your age by 365, subtract that from 27,375, which is on average the days in a lifespan of 75 years. And what you get is the number of days you have left to wake up. Now, since I'm older than you, see, here's how I knew I was getting older. When I went into a music store and everything I like is $1. And I also know I'm getting older when I call it a music store. That's another way I know I'm getting older. But 50 years old, here's the math. I broke it down. That's 1,300 Saturdays. You know, when you think about it like that, you don't want to blow a Saturday. And let me tell you something. That's if you make 75. You may not. One of the businesses that I'm in is I own professional baseball teams. I don't know if you saw that in the bio, but I do. We had opening day at one of my teams in Brockton, Massachusetts, the Brockton Rocks. And in the office, at the end of the game, our mascot, we had a kangaroo for a mascot. Don't ask me why. Maybe we got a cheap deal on the kangaroo outfit. I'm not sure why we have a kangaroo and what it has to do with rocks. But anyway, so he comes out and he's got a Syracuse University t-shirt on. And I hadn't met him yet. So I go, whoa, 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 get over here. I said, what's the deal with the Syracuse? He goes, well, I went to Syracuse. I go, well, I went to Syracuse. He goes, well, I was the mascot at Syracuse. He goes, I was the orange. He goes, I was Out of the Orange. I go, I love Out of the Orange. So we had a great, great time. This kid was 26 years old. And we had the best time. What a delightful guy. We had a wild time. And we took a picture. I was so enamored with this guy. We took a picture of he and I in the front office. 7 months later, he died of leukemia. 26 years old. He didn't know he had it. I didn't know he had it. His parents didn't know he had it. Gone. 26 years old. I keep that picture in my home for two reasons. One, I never want to forget this kid because he was such a vibrant life force. And two, I never want to forget that it can go away like this. It can be all gone in a day. Your life can change in a second. And I don't want to miss 1 second of life. Top 5 regrets of the dying. This was compiled by 2,000 hospice nurses. Here's what the dying said. I wished I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life expected of me. I wished I hadn't worked so hard. I wished I had the courage to express my true feelings. I wished I had stayed in touch with my friends. And this last one kills me. I wished I had let myself be happier. Top 5 of people dying. They can't have a do-over. Why? Why? Why must it be then when this comes to your mind? That's what made me on a mission to say, don't let that happen to you. Good goes around, another point of life. I'm a big believer. Being a better giver makes you a better getter as long as you don't give to get. I believe that with all my heart. I've experienced that. One of my businesses now is highly philanthropic, where every 10 years our goal is to give $1 billion to cause-related charities. Being a better giver makes you a better getter as long as you don't give to get. Here's how I know that to be true. When I was first starting my first business, the Summit Group, which was the sales training, and I was looking for that big hat. In my neighborhood, I would run to kind of blow off the steam. And I would pass this woman, and we'd just say hi, hi, and go about our business. And then one day I got a knock on my door. And I opened the door, and it was her. And she was just as surprised to see that I lived there as I was to see that she's knocking on my door. And I go, what's up? She goes, well, I'm collecting for my neighbor whose son he's 8 years old, he has leukemia, and they're taking him for treatment at Boston, and they don't have enough money for them to stay with their son during this treatment period. So I'm running to raise money and donations. And I'm telling you, I don't know what made me do this. To this day, I don't know what made me do this. I just looked at her and I said, well, how much do you need? And she told me, and I said, wait here. And I went in and I came back with a check for the entire amount. Handed it to her, and I got a call from the kid's parents that night. It was a call I'll never forget, crying. They couldn't believe a stranger had done this for them. It was a call I'll never forget, but the real part of the story that's amazing to me is, as I'm trying to build this business, I need this one big hit to get going. About 30 to maybe 45 days later, I get a call. It's from the director of training at Southern California Edison. And she's talking about sales training. So we had a conversation for 45 minutes on sales training. At the end of the conversation, she goes, "So this is the ABC company, right?" And I go, "No, this is the Summit Group." She goes, "I was calling the ABC company." I go, "Well, you got," so now I'm thinking, She goes, "I must have dialed the wrong number." She goes, "But it doesn't matter, because you know what? What you talked about, I really liked." That turned into a 7-figure contract for me. That launched my business, the Summit Group. You can't tell me those things aren't related. I mean, what are the odds of that? What are the odds of her not even saying, "Is this the Summit Group," up front in our conversation? Because if she had said that, I would have said, "Or is this ABC company?" I would have said no, and that would have been it. She'd have hung up and redialed. What are the odds of that? Good does go around. In fact, I don't know if you saw this. This was just recent, where a woman was shopping and had a bumper sticker saluting her husband who was over in Afghanistan serving. She came back to her car. This note was taped to her windshield along with $40. And it said, "I noticed the sticker on the back of your car. Take your hero out to dinner when he comes home. Thank you both for serving, him deployed and you for waiting. United States veteran, God bless." That had like 2 million hits in about 6 hours. That's how good goes around. I'm a big believer in that. Practicing the art of savoring. One of the things that I do every day is I take time to breathe. I look at the stars. I'll just sit and look at the stars. I'll watch the birds and my bird. My father used to do that, and I go, "Oh man, now I'm my father, right? Now I'm watching birds." But I just do it because it is easy. And I take pleasure in the senses. I stop and smell fresh cut grass. I smell a flower on the way. I don't let a second go by. There was a guy in the Boonville Hotel up in Boonville, New York. I have a place not far from there. And he used to come in every night. And every night he would order bourbon, and he was a great guy. His wife, who this guy loved passionately, had passed away several years back, and he never really got over it. They used to go out dancing all the time. He would love to dance. And I would talk to this guy, and he was a delightful guy. But then there would come a point in the evening where he would turn and go to the jukebox. And that was my cue to give him his space. He would play one song, L7, and it was Harvest Moon by Neil Young. And he would go back and he'd sit in his chair, and his eyes would close, and his head would do this. And he physically was there, but he wasn't there. He was mentally transported, and he was dancing with his wife, I am sure, and he was zoned out. And it was such an unbelievably beautiful thing to see, to watch him do that, and to see every single note of that song. He soaked it in like it was gold. And he did that every night. And it's interesting, poor guy passed away this year. And I actually, evenings at my lake house, I'll play Neil Young, and I'll do one of these. Because I know he's dancing. So that's what I do. But time flies very fast. I remember exactly being your age. Exactly. And it blows by like you wouldn't believe. And the older you get, the faster it goes. Or maybe your parents say that. I look at you, and on average, most of you are much younger than me. The 3 greatest gifts you can give your family. And they're free, they're budget friendly. Whether Google gives you a 10% bonus or not, you can still afford these, right? Time, memories, and tradition. The 3 greatest gifts. Give your family your time. Time to know you, time to enjoy you. As I said earlier, I thought, I better get them brand name sneakers and all that. No. They want you. They want you. Memories. Memories to me are the most powerful life force we have available to us. When you think about it, memories have kept prisoners of war alive. Memories have brought families together when they were miles apart. They've helped heal the sick. They've sped up recovery times. Memories are a powerful tool. And frankly, in the end, memories are all you'll ever have. It's not your money. It's not your big houses. It's not your nice designer clothes. Because when you die, everything goes back in the box, including you. So memories, please make memories a top priority. If you have great memories, you will always have a place to go when times are tough. And the last is tradition. Give your family something that lives on long after you. Maybe your parents have done that for you. But it's 3 greatest gifts you can give to your family, I believe. Now, life is fun and fun is good. I can tell you right now, I don't do anything anymore that's not fun. I just won't do it. And if I can't make it fun, I don't do it. If it's not fun, or I can't make it fun, I'm out. Fucker, out, okay? So, we run our baseball teams. We just were approached by a reality show on how we run our baseball, like we need another one of those. A reality show, they want to do a reality show on how we run our baseball teams, because we're very famous for how we run our baseball teams. We're very successful. Our baseball teams are in our top 10 best service companies in North America. We've sold every ticket to every game for the last 12 to 13 years. Most of the people who started with us are still there. And believe me, we don't give them Google salaries, okay? And when they came in and said, well, how do you do it? How do you do this? They said, let's see your strategy. Where's your 10-year strategy? I go, well, strategy? We hand them a piece of paper. They go, how do you do it? We hand them a piece of paper that says, fun is good. They go, that's it? Yeah, if it was any more than that, it wouldn't be fun. You know, I'm not going to write more than that. So we're famous for our promotions. Here are some of the ones we have done. Some of them need explanation, I'll grant you that. Nobody Night, Charleston, South Carolina. We went for the lowest attendance in the history of professional sports. Not something most professional organizations shoot for, but one of our folks said, hey, why don't we go for the lowest attendance in the history of professional sports? We looked it up in Guinness Book of World Records. The current record was 4. Must have been the old Atlanta Hawks, I'm not sure. But, so we decided to pick a game, and we didn't tell the fans. They just showed up, and we locked all the stadium doors. They couldn't get in. But outside, we had bands and carnival-like atmosphere, and we had the Cooperstown Baseball Hall of Fame was there, ESPN was there. It was all over the wire. And at the end of the 5th inning, we let them in, and now we have the lowest attendance in the history of professional sports. We have 0, and we're quite proud of that. Vasectomy night on Father's Day. Now, we weren't really going to do that. It was just a joke, but unfortunately, it got carried by the UPI, and people started, I mean, it like really got some legs, and just every major news network was on it. So we're going, do you think we should get a urologist at the game? Some nut's gonna have a bag of nachos and probably a bratwurst and say, oh, and a big beer, and I'll have a vasectomy while I'm here. I mean, so we actually pulled that. Mime night we did that in Brockton because the umpires decided that we could no longer show controversial plays on the big scoreboard. So people liked controversial plays, so we said, well, how are we gonna do it? So we decided to hire mimes to reenact plays on the dugout roof, because nobody likes mimes, and there's plenty of them. So we got mimes, and it was so funny, because this is Brockton. Brockton's a tough town. The home of Marvelous Marvin Hagler, the home of Rocky Marciano. I mean, it's a tough town. So this play goes on, and these mimes start to reenact it. They're going like this, and you can see the audience going, like, what? And then finally, one guy stands up and flings a hot dog and hits the mime right in the head. And it was like a zillion light bulbs went on. They go, well, that must be why they're there. They're targets. Within a second, 50,000 hot dogs started flying out of the stand. We sold out of every hot dog in 20 minutes. I am not kidding you. And after getting pelted by about 5 minutes, the mimes were doing gestures to the audience that weren't very mime-like, I might add. Arthur Anderson night, when Arthur Anderson was having math problems with the IRS, They were under investigation for tax fraud. We did a tribute to Arthur Anderson that night. For every ticket you bought for $8, we gave you a receipt for $30 for tax purposes as a tribute to Arthur Anderson. And every one of our stadiums, we have a hot tub. You can have a hot tub party, watch a ball game. We have in St. Paul Saints, we have a 90-year-old nun that gives a massage. I know that sounds so wrong when I say that, but it really does. I get shivers. But she's a licensed masseuse. People love her. We have a pig that delivers baseballs. When the umpire needs a baseball, the pig comes out of center field with 2 saddlebags full of baseballs, and he trots from center field all the way to home plate. And they give him a sugar treat, takes the baseballs out, and he trots all the way back. But people go crazy. They love it. And then we just did inflatable bat night sponsored by Viagra. That seemed to go very, very well. People enjoyed that. But it's fun. And that's why we do it. Relationship refinement, a couple last things here. What I found to be very helpful in my life, especially as I get older, I don't have time for people who waste my time. People who suck the life force out of me. There are energy gainers, there are energy drainers, takers, and 1%ers. Takers, unfortunately, there's a lot of. 1%ers are people who care as much, if not more, about you as they do themselves. Energy gainers, I like hanging around. They make me feel better about myself. Energy drainers are people that just suck the life force out of you. You feel worse when they've been around you. And I try to identify frenemies early. I try to figure out who, I don't want to waste my time. So there's 4 things I look at when I decide who I'm going to hang around to try to read the tea leaves. I look at 4 things. 1, I try to observe how people spend their money. It tells me something about them. If people vote with their money, do they buy things or experiences? Are they impulsive or thoughtful? Are they buying in abundance or scarcity kind of mentality? Then I look at their friends. There's an old Sicilian saying, show me who you hang around and I will show you who you are. That tells me what kind of friendships they have, transactional or unconditional, short-term or long-term. Then I look at how they speak of themselves. That tells me a ton. What's their operating model? Are they humble or are they boastful? They hold a grudge or are they forgiving? Do they give credit or take credit? What's the balance of listening versus talking? We used to have a neighbor, my father never liked her. He goes, she has 2 gears, talking and waiting to talk. And so I said, that's a pretty good one, Dad. Anyway, and then the last thing I look at is I observe how do they treat people and things they don't need? How do they treat kids, senior citizens, relatives, service people? How do they do that? I was over one acquaintance's house, and their 12-year-old was acting up, was so rude at the table, I couldn't believe it, and the mother felt she needed to address. She goes, oh, I mean, even swore at the table. She goes, oh, that's our little Timmy. He's very opinionated. I go, yeah, little Timmy's going to jail. You better fix him before he robs me in 10 years. So, all that to say is this. You get what you accept in life. And to me, happiness is the ultimate currency. Those who wish to sing always find a song. The 2 most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you discover why. And life is like riding a 10-speed bike. Most of us have gears we've never used. And this next one came directly from Willie Nelson. He told me this. It doesn't matter how heavy something is. What matters is how long you have to hold it. I don't know what he meant. It may have been a doobie. I'm not sure what he was thinking about there. Things that surprise me most about people. We get bored with childhood. We rush to grow up, and then we long to become children again. We lose our health to try to make money, and then we lose our money to try to get back our health. We live as if we'll never die, and we die as though we've never lived. And we don't understand that a rich person is not the one who makes the most, but it's the one who needs the least. The best things in life are not things. And what I really want you to understand is don't ever forget why it is you do what you do. I know you work hard. You do, I know. But don't forget why you work hard. The best definition to me of success is applause at home. And I'll end with this. The eulogy. I saw a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted the first date was her birth, and the second was when she passed. He said, we never truly know just how long our lives might last. Then he paused a bit, trying to fight back his tears, and then he said, what truly matters, though, is the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time we've spent alive on earth, And only those who've loved you can know what that little line is worth. Then he said, it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters most is how we live and how we love and how we spend that dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. So when your eulogy is read and your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? Thank you very much. Let me turn it over to Ben. You guys have been great to hang with me. I know you guys you're running and gunning all the time, but thank you.